All right, let's journey back in time and explore the absolutely breathtaking world of medieval Indian architecture. We're talking everything from temples that seem to touch the clouds to magnificent tombs that tell incredible stories of love and power. This is history, literally written in stone. Let's dive in.
You know, when we look at these amazing buildings, we're not just seeing stone and mortar. Not at all. We're seeing the dreams of entire dynasties, the beautiful clash of different cultures, and the way art can change over centuries. So, what are these buildings actually trying to tell us? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out.
Okay, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll look at the two big architectural traditions that started it all. Then, we'll dive into the great temple styles. After that, we'll see what happened when two worlds collided to create something totally new, leading us to the Mughal Golden Age. And finally, we'll wrap up by looking at the incredible legacy this whole period left behind.
To really get a handle on medieval Indian architecture, you gotta picture it like two powerful rivers flowing through history. The first river is the homegrown tradition of temple building, which had its own unique flavors all over the country. And the second river? That's the arrival of Indo-Islamic styles, bringing a wave of new techniques and ideas that would soon start mixing with the old.
So, let's start with that first river, the temples. Now, this wasn't just one single style. Oh no, it was more like three totally distinct architectural languages that grew up across the subcontinent. Each one had its own personality. We're going to break down the blueprints for North, South, and Central India.
First up is the Nagara style. This is what you'd see all over northern India, and its roots go way back to the Gupta period. The key feature, the thing that gives these temples that incredible, soaring, almost mountain-like look, is the shikara. That's the tall, curvy tower right over the main shrine, and it was always built to be taller than the hall right next to it, the mandapa. Now, if you head south, you enter a whole different world, the Dravida style. This style really hit its stride under dynasties like the Pallavas and the Cholas, and it looks completely different. Instead of a curving shikara, the main event here is a stepped, pyramidal tower. These temple complexes were often huge, with these massive, ornate gateways called gopurams, a main hall or mandapa, and the sacred inner room, the garbhagriha. So what happens when north meets south? You get the Visara style. You find this in the Deccan region, right in the middle of India. And it's this fascinating hybrid. It's a really creative mashup that took ideas from both the Nagara and Dravida styles to create something totally new and unique.
This table really just lays it all out at a glance, doesn't it? You've got the clear regional splits, the totally different tower styles, and the powerful dynasties that backed each one. The big takeaway here is that medieval Indian temple architecture was never just one thing. It was incredibly, wonderfully diverse.
Okay, now let's move on to that second great river of architecture. When Turkish rulers arrived, they brought a whole new set of ideas from places like Persia and Central Asia. These ideas started to mix with local traditions, and that kicked off an era of just incredible architectural fusion. This wasn't a replacement, it was more like a creative conversation between cultures.
And just look at how this amazing blend worked. The new style borrowed familiar Indian things like open courtyards and beautifully carved balconies. But then it combined them with these revolutionary new forms. The soaring dome, the pointed arch, towering minarets, and these intricate, almost hypnotic geometric patterns and mosaics. And all of this fusion created a brand new architectural language. It was all about the graceful lines of arches and domes, a love for materials like red sandstone, and a totally new style of decoration. Instead of carving people, the focus shifted to beautiful floral patterns, geometric designs, and elegant calligraphy, often featuring verses from the Quran. Now, this Indo-Islamic style was about to hit its absolute peak under the Mughals, but they were building on a foundation that had been laid by earlier dynasties. So let's take a quick walk through the timeline to see how this whole architectural story really took shape.
The story really kicks off with the Mamluk dynasty, when Qutbuddin Aibak started building the famous Qutub Minar in Delhi. The Khiljis came next, adding their own touch with the stunning Allied Darwaza Gateway. But when the Mughals arrived on the scene, architecture entered a whole new era, first under the Emperor Akbar and then reaching its absolute zenith with his grandson, Shah Jahan.
Under Akbar, the Indo-Persian style just exploded. I mean, he built an entire new capital city from scratch, Fatehpur Sikri, and this quote captures it perfectly. A poetry in red sandstones.
It was just this stunning complex of palaces, halls, and mosques that really showed off his incredible vision.
And that vision only got bigger. If Akbar was a visionary, his grandson Shah Jahan was something else entirely. He was the ultimate architect emperor. His time on the throne represents the absolute pinnacle of Mughal building, an era of unmatched elegance, perfect symmetry, and pure opulence.
I mean, the names really do speak for themselves, don't they? The Taj Mahal, a wonder of the world, the Moti Masjid, the Pearl Mosque in Agra, and in his brand new capital city, he gave us the massive Red Fort and the Jama Masjid. His legacy is literally carved into the landscape of India.
But it wasn't just about the buildings. The Mughals also perfected the spaces around them. And for them, a key concept, a magic number, if you will, was 4.
This brings us to the Charbagh, or the four-part garden. This was a Persian design that the Mughals absolutely fell in love with. The whole idea was to create a little slice of paradise on earth, a perfectly symmetrical garden divided into 4 quarters by flowing water or pathways. The gardens of the Taj Mahal are, without a doubt, the most famous and beautiful example of this idea brought to life.
So what happens after a golden age? Well, like all great eras, things started to change. The focus of the empire shifted, and this had a really fascinating and probably unintended effect on architecture all across the subcontinent.
Right. So after Shah Jahan, his son, Aurangzeb, took power. But his priorities were totally different. He was way more interested in military campaigns and conquering new territory, especially down in the Deccan. The era of building these massive, expensive monuments in the capital city, well, it started to wind down. So what happened next is just fascinating. With fewer big jobs in the capital, all of those highly skilled artisans, architects, and craftsmen, they started to leave. They packed up and moved to growing regional kingdoms in places like Vijayanagara, Gujarat, and Bengal, who were thrilled to have them. This great migration led to an incredible explosion of unique and powerful regional styles all across India. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The story of medieval Indian architecture is a story of creation, of fusion, and of evolution. From the very distinct temple styles of the North and South to the grand, beautiful synthesis of Indo-Islamic design, this period gave India a truly astonishing and diverse architectural landscape that still blows us away today. It really makes you think, doesn't it? These structures were the legacy of their time. They were massive statements about faith, about power, and about beauty, which kind of leaves us with one final question to chew on. What will be the architectural legacy of our time? Thanks for watching.